Good morning, everybody. My name is Mark Ng from Malaysian Nature Society. Thank you very much for joining this breakout session where we'll be talking about monitoring of raptor migration. There will be 6 presentations in this session, of which the first 2 presentations is a pre-recorded video. Each session will be given about 20 minutes, which include a couple of minutes towards the end of each session for any Q&A. You can either directly talk into the meeting, please unmute, or you can just type your question in the chat group. Then I will just refer the question to the presenter. So without further ado, let's start with the first presentation. The first presentation is on 5-year monitoring of migratory raptors during autumn season in Glan, Sarangani Province in Philippines. And the person that is presenting in this video is Joylene Tayandon.
To ARRCN committee, to fellow presenters and participants, good morning. I'm Julie Tayandon, a technical staff under Research and Development section of Environmental Conservation and Protection Center in Sarangani Province, Philippines. Allow me to present to you the migratory raptor monitoring conducted by the province. To begin, the title of our study is a 5-year monitoring of migratory raptors during autumn season in Glan, Sarangani Province, Philippines. This study in partnership with the Raptor Watch Network Philippines. To find suitable areas for breeding activities, abundant food resources, and for their general survival. So this is the map of East Asian-Australasian Flyway by the Wild Bird Club of the Philippines. The red arrows are countries identified as general flyway route of migratory raptors in East Asia. Migratory migration studies had been extensively conducted in countries like Japan, Korea, and Taiwan due to their important ecological role in the environment. So the Philippines, as part of the East Asian-Australasian Flyway and identified as an important bird and biodiversity area, is a top priority site for conservation and protection of birds and other wildlife. The birds move twice a year during spring season and autumn season. So the geological location of the Philippines. So this map projected migratory routes following mountain ridges in the Philippines. According to the Raptor Watch Network Philippines, as they describe that the Philippines as an important link in the East Asia-Australasian Flyway, a migration route involving long sea crossing. So what are raptor? So raptors are predatory birds, which we commonly classified as eagles and hawks. They are the top of the food chain and important in the control of population of their prey. Due to their important ecological role in the environment, they help keep ecosystem balance by acting as a natural pest controllers by consuming rats, beetles, rodents, and others, as well as the bio indicator if the area is still healthy. In addition, raptors are used as a natural indicator for climatic changes, where their migration behavior is highly affected by the climate change. So this is a Philippine eagle named Sarangani Pride, found in Maitum, Sarangani Province. So for the brief history on how or who discovered Sarangani as route of this migratory raptor. So the Raptor Watch Network Philippines first conducted the raptor monitoring last 2014 in their study titled Project Southern Crossing 2014 First Observations of Autumn Raptor Migration at Sarangani, Mindanao, Philippines. According to their study, that Sarangani, on the southern tip of Mindanao, is very likely to be a major migration route in autumn for raptors crossing from the Philippines to Sulawesi. So the Sarangani Technical Working Group was created, and we, in partnership with the Raptor Watch Network Philippines, will conduct the month-long study which aims to promote coordinated actions to achieve and maintain the favorable conservation status of the migratory raptors, to protect these migratory species along their flyways, and to identify their important habitats, roosting sites, and favored routes, and to produce a relevant research. For the objectives of the study, first is to establish a 5-year database of information regarding species composition, population size, routes, and to locate potential roosting sites of migratory raptors. Second, to capacitate the local community, students, and other interested individuals in gathering scientific data for migratory raptor monitoring. And last, to generate information on migratory raptors that will be used by the local government in drafting management plan and ordinances. So, the Raptor Watch site. So, the municipality of Glan is located at the southernmost tip of the Philippines. Raptor Watch site was primarily established in Barangay Rio del Pilar by Raptor Watch Network Philippines in 2014. Barangay Rio del Pilar is located in the municipality of Glan, Sarangani Province. That Glan is located in the north of. This is the perfect site for Raptor Watch since all the raptors are flying along the ridges of Mount Gulo and Mount Taldak can be clearly. For the methodology, monitoring of these migratory raptors was conducted daily for 45 days from the month of September to October from 7 a.m. until 3 p.m. daily. The migratory raptors population and species were determined through scanning techniques and estimation methods. Identification of raptors were done using field guide, differentiating species by the shape of their wings, color, as well as the size. A pair of binoculars and spotting scopes were used by the watcher to scan 360 degrees in each side of the site, from the horizon of mountain and ridges of Mount Gulo and Mount Taltak. Observers were located strategically to scan the horizon within 180 at their assigned post. Global positioning system also used to get the coordinates of the study area. For the result of this study, the table shows the migratory raptor count from 2016 to 2020 with corresponding migrant species observed in Raptor Hill, Rio del Pilar Glan, Sarangani Province, Philippines. A total of 8 migratory raptor species were observed in a 5-year study, namely Chinese Sparrowhawk, Crested Honey Buzzard, Gray-faced Buzzard, Harrier SP, Japanese Sparrowhawk, Peregrine Falcon, Western Osprey, and a known raptor species. Among the 8 species observed, Chinese Sparrowhawk and Gray-faced Buzzard were the most common species migratory raptors in the study site. Raptors were usually observed in flocks by the hundreds, and the largest flock observed was estimated to be composed of 1,000 individuals, which were seen flying low from the northwestern side of Mount Gulo area of the watch site heading towards Sarangani Islands, Davao Occidental. Most of the raptors were observed to cross the study area from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. The figure comparison of total migratory raptor counts in Raptor Watch site Glan from 2016 to 2020. So it is recorded that in 2019 were the most high number of migratory raptors documented with a total of 161,719 individuals of. For the species composition, the Chinese Sparrowhawk, these migrant species were identified through their size, color, and the black tip in their wings compared to the other migratory raptors. The data showed that Chinese Sparrowhawk was the most dominant species observed in the study area, which consists of 96% of the total migratory raptors counted, passing the Raptor Watch site. The raptor watchers also documented the peak migration day of these raptors, and it was observed on the 26th and 29th of September, with the peak time to observe was from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Next is the gray-faced buzzard. Were immediately identified through their size, wing shape, color, and distinct bird call tikwi, while flying above the Raptor Watch site to Mount Taltak. These migratory raptor were only observed on the latter part of the study period from the 4th week of October. In a 5-year monitoring, gray-faced buzzard consists about 3.9% of the total migratory raptor observed in the study site. Factors affecting the flying movement of the migratory raptor. First is the weather condition, such as wind direction and wind speed, is the leading influence that greatly affect the flying movement of the migratory raptor. In a 5-year monitoring, 2 to 3 tropical cyclones entered yearly in the Philippine area of their responsibility, that considered as important factor that affect to the decreased number of migratory raptor counted flying in the study site. Next is the cloud formation, also affect the flying movement of the migratory raptor. During overcast and thick clouds, we presume that migrating raptors flying so high above the clouds. For the conclusion, we conclude that the 5-year monitoring of the migrating raptors confirmed that Glan, Sarangani Province is a major route in the East Asian-Australasian Flyway during autumn migration. Our study also confirmed the report from Raptor Watch Network Philippines stating that Glan, Sarangani Province is a major route for autumn migration of raptors flying from Japan and Taiwan to Philippines and Indonesia. Among the 8 migratory raptor recorded, Chinese Sparrowhawk with 96% was most abundant migratory raptors, followed by gray-faced buzzard, which consists of 3.9%. So the data generated in this study was used in the drafting of Municipal Ordinance number 22-005, an ordinance declaring every month of September and October as Langyaw Langgam Festival in the municipality of Glan, providing policies of protection and penalties for violations thereof, and appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes. This ordinance aiming for the protection of these migrating raptors and the conservation of its roosting sites. Furthermore, the study also midway for the reforestation of Mount Taltak in partnership with the Japanese Society for the Preservation of Birds. For the recommendations, Raptor count is greatly affected by the prevailing weather conditions in their flyway. Thus, having a long-term data is beneficial in understanding their migration events. Continuation of this monitoring is highly recommended to create a comprehensive database. It is also recommended to incorporate data on food preference, behavior in roosting sites, fecal parasites, and threats they encounter in roosting areas in the future study. With this, we also encourage drafting a detailed management plan by the municipal government together with other line agencies to advance our efforts towards environmental management through sustainable ecosystem. The researchers would like to thank the following individuals who contributed greatly to the success of the 5-year migratory raptor monitoring. First, to our beloved Provincial Governor, Steve Chongbian Solon, together with his wife, Ma Michelle Solon, and these photos took during a second Raptor Watch Festival last October 2019 with Sir Alex and Ma'am Tire from Raptor Watch Network Philippines and our Executive Director of ECPC, Mr. Cornelio Ramirez Jr. Next is the Raptor Watch Network Philippines for our mentor who encourage, educate, and share their knowledge about migratory raptors and for their continuous support every year despite of this COVID-19 pandemic. So Sir Alex and Ma'am Tiri with the Community Raptor Watchers. Next is the local government unit of Glan. Thank you, LGU Glan, for allowing us to conduct the project from 2016 to 20. And next for the local leaders of Barangay Rio del Pilar, Batulaki, Cross and Lagimit for their continuous support of this project. Thank you to our community raptor watchers who excitedly waiting for us every raptor monitoring. This is Renren, the Raptor Boy, since day one with Raptor Watch Network Philippines as the Raptor monitoring officially started in Sarangani, Raptor Hill, year 2014. Our new Raptor Watchers with Raptor Girl, yours truly. For the family Kuray, thank you so much for accommodating us for the 5-year of the monitoring period. Lastly, for the Sarangani Technical Working Group, for their hard work, passion, dedication to support environmental advocacy for conservation and protection of these migratory raptors. Thank you so much for lending me your ears and listen for this presentation. Once again, I'm your Raptor girl from Sarangani Province, Philippines, Joylene Deyundon.
Thank you, Joylene. Zan, I have one question in the chat group, and I noticed that Alex is in this group as well. Perhaps he can answer this question. The question is from Tulsi, and it says there 2016 recorded a very low number. Is there a particular reason for that? Alex, maybe if you hear this, you can give some insights into this. Thank you.
2016.
Yep.
Well, I can't recall what happened at that time. I'm sorry, I'm so old. There's so many things I don't remember without looking at my notes, and they are left behind in Manila.
It's okay.
But I will answer Tulsi. Let me just talk to the people in Sarangani. I'm sure there is an answer there. Let me just talk to them and refer to some of the emails that we have exchanged. And I will answer Tulsi personally.
Okay, thank you.
I was hoping that somebody would ask why the gray-faced buzzard's population decreased over the years. Let me tell you the possible reason for that. When we were training the watchers in Sarangani, there was difficulty in identifying the species depending on the distance from the ground that they were flying. So from the distance, they all look the same because there was not so much discrimination in their knowledge and identification. But over the years, they have learned to identify properly so that the population, the counts became less. And I think it is just right that it should be less because there are less gray-faced buzzards going south to Sangihe. As a matter of fact, Gurmi, in his study, said only 2% of all other raptors. But we have what? 4%. So I guess it's just about right that it should go down.
Okay, great. Thanks, Alex, for your valuable insights. And timing is running pretty short. So without further ado, Zanhui, can you help to go to the next presenter, which is Giovanni Tampos. And the topic that this video covers is the dynamics of raptor migration in Cape San Agustin, Davao Oriental, Philippines. Thank you.
I am Giovanni G. Tampos, faculty of Davao Oriental State University, and I thank the Asian Raptor Research Conservation Network for providing me this opportunity to share with you our research outputs on the monitoring and observation of migratory raptors here in Davao Oriental, particularly in Cape San Agustin, Governor Generoso. Let me share to you a research output in behalf of Dr. Laurie Goodrich, the director of the Acopian Center for Conservation Learning at Hawk Mountain Sanctuary, on the dynamics of raptor migration in Cape San Agustin, Davao Oriental, Philippines. It covers the important highlights of our 4-year monitoring on migratory raptors at southeastern Philippines and Mindanao, starting 2018 until 2021. Raptor migration is an evolutionary adaptation of seasonal undirected movements traveling back and forth from their breeding and wintering grounds. This adaptation is a response to shifting kinds and amount of light, temperature, and food availability. Philippines has been considered as an important location both as wintering ground and a significant East Asian oceanic flyway when raptors migrate to winter in Indonesia. Migratory raptors enter the Philippines following an open ocean movements at the islands of northern tip of Basco Batan before going to mainland Philippines. Thousands of individuals exits at the southern tip of the country in Mindanao to winter in Indonesia. These raptors are known to breed in Russia, Japan, and China, and during winter, they move down at lower latitude, entering Taiwan before proceeding to Philippines. Actually, there was a study with GPS-fitted Chinese Sparrowhawk from China which reveals another route going to Vietnam, Laos, Myanmar, Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore, and finally arriving in Indonesia. Nonetheless, there are hundreds of thousands of Sparrowhawks follows the route in the Philippines before reaching Indonesia, providing shorter and direct routes for raptors. As a background of this research, the study started due to partnerships through a Memorandum of Agreement, or MOA, with the Japanese Society for the Preservation of Birds and Raptor Watch Network Philippines. And this was supported in cooperation with the Hawk Mountain Sanctuary through their technical assistance and financial support. We're able to establish 4-year monitoring and migratory raptors, as I've said, covering 2018 to 2021. The objectives of this research is to document the number of species of raptors migrating, document the temporal distribution and flight pattern of raptors, and document the movement pattern of raptors as they travel the mountain ranges of Mount Tamigitan. And this research presents the highlights of the important findings of the 4-year monitoring, especially understanding what is the role of Mount Tamigitan Range as a renowned UNESCO World Heritage Site, where it is also a peninsula where these migratory raptors are traveling. Before we start our research, we sought permission from the local government of the city of Mati and Governor Generoso, which has the jurisdictions on the counting areas, to allow us to do our research. To generate data on migratory raptors, we are employing wait and see method, where we occupied a stationary post, and this post was just along the road, established going into the lighthouse at the tip of the peninsula, where this is also becoming one of the tourist site of the locals, and hopefully watching migratory raptors can also be one of the options for tourism at the site.
So this is the site where we do our counting here in Cape of San Agustin. We usually count Chinese Sparrowhawk, Crayfish Buzzard, and Japanese Sparrowhawk here, starting in September 15 and towards the end of October. You can see here in front of us is a mountain, and this is where usually the migratory birds are coming in, and when this starts to circles, finding thermals, and then they fly towards south, and then we started counting these birds.
And here is the results of our research and monitoring on migratory raptors. Our counts actually showed an increase in numbers of counted migratory raptors. We actually exclude here most of our data from 2021 monitoring because of the very limited sampling effort due to the restrictions attributed to COVID-19, and as well insufficient funding to sustain the count. From our first monitoring in 2018, the peak of arrivals occurred from the last week of September to first 2 weeks of October. During this period, a total of 25,996 raptors were counted, with a daily average of 1,368 raptors. In the following year, the peak of arrivals occurred in the second week to almost last week of October, with a total count of 25,262 raptors and a daily average of 1,329 raptors. On the third season of monitoring in 2020, in terms of the arrival of raptors at the counting site, most of them arrived within the last 2 weeks of October, where a total of 24,548 raptors were observed, where at this period, a daily average of 1,534 individuals were observed. While in 2021, we observed a very erratic movement patterns. For the season tally, we again exclude here the data from 2021. However, we still generate a similar pattern from the previous season count. Accipiter siluensis was mostly encountered, comprising more than 90% of the counted raptors of the site. and there's a very few fraction of Botastor indicus and very few numbers of Accipitor gularis. And as of now, though we observe Pandion heliatus at the site, but there are really no compelling observations that would suggest that Pandion heliatus move further down south. We believe, our observations, that these raptors are just wintering here within the coastal areas of the peninsula. We were also able to validate the research of Dr. Camille Concepcion, where most of the raptors are morning flyer, particularly exploiting good thermals, a thermal column of rising air in the lower altitudes of Earth's atmosphere, which forms an atmospheric updraft, helping migratory raptors, especially traveling longer distances. Early morning flyers were observed to utilize wind updrafts. However, as thermals build up, raptors are already exploiting thermals. We usually soar high when using thermals, especially approaching midday. Hence, we suspect we might be missing important numbers of migratory raptors. We are just actually using a very low magnifications of binoculars, and those migratory raptors which reach higher altitudes could sometimes be missed out when we are doing the search. Hence, it's very important to use also field scope to scan the clouds, especially when thermals are very high. And we hope we could have it soon, especially if there are opportunities from here at the network of Asian Raptor Research. Actually, aside from doing research, we also make this venue as a chance to promote Raptor education program. Hence, before the pandemic, we started to invite junior and senior high school students at the site for our Raptor Encounter program. We teach these students the different raptors found in the Philippines, and we highlight those raptors that migrate from other countries, especially from Russia, China, and Japan, and why these raptors move and migrate near the equator. Then the most exciting part is we provide them hands-on experience on observations on how to search, how to scan the sky, and how to count them. We actually wanted to expand this program. However, the pandemic has put on hold all our educational activities due to government restrictions. However, we believe that when things will get back to normal, we will surely include this education program to allow younger generations to appreciate the value of conservation, especially these migratory birds which are really ignored, especially these younger ones. And we hope that we can continue this one, especially if there are some partners here in the ARRCN who can help us. And thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Giovanni, for that presentation. If there is any questions, you post it on the chat group, and perhaps someone from the group will be able to answer at the later stage. Without further ado, let's go straight on to the next presenter. The next presenter is Joe Susai, and he will be talking about migration ecology of Chinese sparrowhawks in the East Asian Australasian Flyway. Go ahead, Joe. Thank you.
Ada. Nanti saya lihat di mobil.
San Hui? Is Joe Suzai in?
Yeah, lost is here.
Okay.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you, Prof.
Yeah, I think.
Let me share my screen. Can everyone see my screen now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Dear friends, colleagues, and reptile lovers, good afternoon from Taiwan. And my name is Ross Tai. I am assistant professor at the National Jai University and also an active member of Raptor Research Group of Taiwan. Today, I want to present our result from the past couple years of the migration ecology of Chinese sparrowhawk using satellite telemetry. And I am presenting on behalf of a group of researchers and also collaborators from Korea and from Hawk Mountain Sanctuary. This is what you can see at Kenting National Park during every fall from mid-September to early October. You can see tens of thousands of Chinese sparrowhawk passing through this bottleneck. It's quite a phenomenon and attract a lot of the attentions and public awareness for this particular species. And today what we're looking at is the Accipiter soloensis, which is a small size raptor. And the male has the lighter weight around 120 and the females can go up to 150. And they are complete migrant. So all of their population will move south to the wintering ground and then move back to the north to breed in the following year. And this is the distribution map. You can see the light yellow is the breeding ground. And we also have the wintering ground in the tropic part of the Southeast and the East Asia. So what do we know about this species? Actually, there are numerous ground count locations. For example, like from Japan, the Tsushima trait. And also I mentioned Kenting earlier. By the way, we will also have our representative from Raptor Research Group of Taiwan will present their data in Kenting National Park. And we also see a lot of the ground count from today's and yesterday's talk about their monitoring in different bottlenecks. So what we can do is actually we can connect this dot together and sort of understand their migration route. But we actually don't know a lot about what kind of route they took, how long, and how fast they fly. And through the telemetry, we now have a much better idea. And this is the pure oceanic route. And I also want to mention that there are also another route that this population comes from China, goes to Taiwan, and then goes back. So it's like a half continental and half oceanic. On the west part of the distribution, there's also a continental population breeds in the South China and then go through Thailand. Also a spectacular hawk counting site called Insor. They count a lot of Chinese Sparrowhawk, and then their population go down to Malaysia and then Indonesia. So today what we're trying to do is to focus on the population on the east side. And actually 2 years ago in the 3 years ARRCN meeting, we presented the result from this part, from China to Taiwan to Philippines. And today we'll also include our new result from the Korean population. So the objectives of this study, our overarching goal is to use the satellite telemetry as a way to understand their migration ecology, and this including to know their breeding and the wintering grounds, to know the migration route and strategies, and also look at the site and the route fidelity. And we're also interested in the influence of weather condition and also their variations of population ecology among different populations. But today, our presentation will focus on the first three parts. So this is where we started from 2016 to 2019 in Kenting National Park, Taiwan. And here we try to capture raptors, the Chinese Sparrowhawk in spring and fall migration using mist nets. And we fitted those individuals qualified with the weight, with the microwave and the biotracked pinpoint tags. And there are total 13. And since we already presented this earlier, so I will go through this quickly, but I still want to emphasize that because I want to compare the two different flyways. So I'll also show this as a reminder to everyone, or just in case some of you may miss that 2 years ago. So for this graph, on the x-axis is the date, and the y-axis is the latitude. For example, in 2016, we captured the first one in spring migration, and the individual head north, breathe there, and then head down. In 2017 and 2016 fall, we capture many more, and then things like that. So you can see they go up and down just in terms of the latitude. So if we look at more longer terms, and we can look at the southbound and the northbound duration. So they started from early September and arrived their wintering ground around early November. For northbound migration is from early March to early June. So they're pretty stable and pretty consistent in terms of the timings. And if we look at the latitudinal migration range, and we can see that from their breeding ground, their latitudinal span is about 5.6 degrees, but with wintering ground is a lot more, with the span is 13.4. So with the satellite telemetries, we now can know their migration ecology from this perspective. If we look at from the map, we can also see that the breeding ground is in China for those individuals that we captured from Kenting, and they breed in Shandong, Henan, Jiangxi Province, etc. And wintering ground is from central Philippines to south, including the Visayas, Mindanaos. Also, they can go all the ways to Sulawesi or Bulu Islands in Indonesia. So from the wintering ground, the span is quite wild. So for the migration part, you can see the distance travels range from 2,700 kilometers to can go all the ways to 5,400. And then for this group of birds we trapped, they all have the similar route in north and the south, following the similar pattern, go up and down. So what we want to look in more detail, if we separate the north and the southbound population, the records. And we can see that from the left-hand side is the southbound in fall, and the right-hand side is the northbound in the spring. What we can see, if we look at the specific section from North Taiwan to North Philippines, and we can see that from this region, the longitudinal span is much wider in the northbound, can go up to 8 degrees, but during the southbound migration, it's only 4. When they go down to the central to South Philippines, the longitudinal span is similar. And we can see that the route selections is probably related to the biogeographic location of those islands, and also possibly by the weather conditions. If we look at, we only have a few individuals that we can monitor and track them for the multiple years. And just based on a few individuals, what we can see is that for this one, their wintering ground within 2 consecutive years is less than 200 kilometers. Well, if you think about 200 kilometers, it seems a lot, but compared to their 3,000 or 5,000 long journey, and this I think can be considered medium to small. Here's an example for another individuals that we can track them for almost 3 years. Their breeding site are within 200 kilometers in 2 consecutive years. And their wintering site that we have data for 3 years, that's also a story about the sign. It should be less than 200 kilometers in those 3 consecutive years. So from this limited data, looks like they are pretty, they have high fidelity in terms of the site selections. So here's a new part, and we really want to know the oceanic population, what's their route, but from all the individuals we captured in Taiwan, they didn't go that direction. So we connected with the researchers in Korea, Dr. Cho and Dr. Nan. And so in 2019, we went over in summer during their breeding season and using the bosha tree to capture their breeding population. And there we used 3 different types of satellite tags, because based on the previous experience, and some of them because they are all solar models, and a lot of the time when they go into the breeding ground or wintering ground, and they cannot charge very well. So we try to use different models to increase the chance to get good data. And so we, in addition to the microwave and the pinpoint, we also try to use the Druid models, and we'll show you the result later. So this is a result from the 2019 to 2021. And sorry about the legends here. Well, this part should be in dash because these 3 will be the northbound. But what we can see from this is that their breeding ground is pretty narrow. Their site fertility is really high. So for those 3 individuals go back to Korea, they are within just 0.1 degree. So it's very close to each other where they were born. And for the wintering ground, it's actually similar, have a really wide span from central to South Philippines, and go all the ways to Sulawesi. So have a much wider wintering ground span. And here is the interesting part, and I think the most noticeable part for this project is the migration in between. So traditionally, we think that a lot of the Chinese sparrowhawk has been counted in the Tsushima Island, and they should go through the Okinawa island chain and go to Taiwan and go to Philippines. But what we found that, again, based on those limited individuals, there are long distance, they took long distance ocean crossing route. And a lot of them actually go straight either to Okinawa, and then directly to Philippines and not going through Taiwan. And there are some data showing that they stop over in Taiwan, but those information, those texts didn't get really good data. So those straight lines are not really real. We don't know their exact migration route, but we connected those dots to show you that that's where they went. So interestingly, not a lot of individuals taking the Tsushima route. And another noticeable finding is that when they go north, they will either go through Taiwan or go directly to the Southeast China. And then after they're heading up, they will cross the Yellow Seas and go all the way to their breeding ground. So that means this has been long been hypothesized that this is the loop migration route, and then this is being identified and discovered confirmed for the first time. So they form a loop migration north of Philippines. And as I mentioned, a lot of the texts from Korea didn't produce good resolution data, but there is one individual, this is the male, that provide hourly data that when they go from Korea to Okinawa and then to Philippines and all the ways to Indonesia. And because this model provides a boost mode, so when they are flying and under good charging condition, and they can provide much better resolution in terms of the coordinates. So this bird, he took the whole journey in the 2 different sections. So I'll show you the details about this, and then this is really amazing how they did this. These individuals started from the Jeju Island in South Korea on September 24th at 6 a.m. And then this individual flew directly to Irumote, Japan for 27 consecutive hours, nonstop. And that including daytimes and also night times. The total distance is 1,010 kilometers, and the average speed, well, the hourly speed is between like 34 to 47 kilometers per hour. So it's pretty amazing how they can do that. And they didn't take this individual didn't take the traditional route that we thought they would go. So after resting for 8 days, it started another stretch of journey from October 3rd in the early morning as well. And then now this time they flew even longer. It took this individual 31 hours to fly across 730 kilometers. And you can see longer time, shorter distance. So the average speed hourly speed is from 17 kilometers per hour to 40. And apparently there are a lot of influence in the weather condition. Again, non-stop, and also including the nocturnal stretch. So if we look at the one individual that have been able to track for more than 1 year, and here is what we can see for the breeding ground, as I mentioned, is in 2 consecutive years, their location is less than 2 kilometers. It's very, very close. It's probably the same valley. And for the wintering site, again, it's very close. It's exactly the same spot for the wintering. And the same thing for migration route. For both years, for this particular individual, he took long distance ocean crossing route for both years, not the Tsushima and the Okinawa route. So this is what we found from those things. And then the one thing I want to mention is their ability to fly at night, because traditionally when we do hawk count, we started early morning and then go through midday or to the late afternoon. But a lot of the individuals from those satellite tracking data shows that they actually fly a lot in the evening. So here are some more evidence on long distance ocean crossing nocturnal flight on their way north. So on the left-hand side, these individuals left Philippines, and then by 4 p.m., they're still in the middle of the ocean. So apparently they have to go through certain stretch at night. And also another individual from 7 to 10 p.m. and they're out in the middle of the ocean and they're trying to flying across from Philippines to China directly. So it's very interesting to see more of this, to reveal more of this behavior through the satellite, and then also in the future link this behavior to the weather condition. So in short, so what do we actually discover? So by tracking each individual's day by days, we know more about their breeding and wintering and stopover site. And now, especially, I want to use this opportunity to call for collaboration, especially for the colleagues in Philippines and Indonesia. I think it will be very interesting to see where is their, wintering condition, and then including our satellite data and maybe your local observations, we should be able to discover some important site, especially have some implications for conservation. And we can see that their route selections are more flexible than previously known. And especially we didn't find any individuals flying through the Tsushima and the Okinawa route, and a lot of them didn't go through Taiwan. So what we have been counted in the southern part of Taiwan contain maybe just part of the population from the north. And we also know that there are differences in latitudinal span between breeding and the wintering ground, and the wintering ground being much wider. And we also see the differences in longitudinal spans between southbound and northbound migration when we calculate them in two different directions. So what we do not know, and this is something we really, really want to know more about, is are there any interactions between the population from China and South Korea? So apparently those population from South Korea, when they go north, they will go through China and then flew. We actually have one individual, the signal stopped right here. And we don't know if they breathe there or something happened, so they didn't finish their journey back to Korea. And this requires more samples to know the answers. And are there any different strategies for individuals taking either continental or oceanic route? So for the right-hand side from Korea is purely oceanic, but for individuals taking from China, it's actually half continental and half oceanic. So what's their strategies? And what's the proportion of the individuals taking long distance ocean crossing or even nocturnal route? And I think it's worth comparing and calling for collaboration from the people from Japan, Korea, and also Philippines, because these are the same population and we need more collaborations to know their interactions. And lastly, there's one hypothesis we've been thinking about, because we tag our birds in the southern tip of the Korea. So maybe that's the reason they didn't go north a little bit and then to the Tsushima route. So that will be very interesting to know if the northern population in Korea, will they take the similar route, or the differences are basically from the geographic location and region. In the future directions, there are a lot more things we can do and want to do, is how the weather conditions affect their migrations. And then also we are now starting the collaborations and with the people from Thailand and Korea apparently, and the Taiwan, to know if there are any genetic differences between those populations taking different routes. So at the end, I want to take this time to thanks for all the collaborators and all the working members, especially the group from Raptor Research Group of Taiwan and from Dr. Cho and Dr. Nan in South Korea, and also Keith Bilstein from the Hawk Mountain. And now I'm open for the question. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Professor Ross, for a wonderful presentation, exciting data that you've presented. Time is running short. There are two questions that are being posted at the moment in chat group. Do you know the breeding success of the individual from Korea that was tracked for 2 years? And the second question is, what is your guess on flight modes during the nocturnal section?
Okay, we actually don't have data on the breeding success. And I think it's very interesting questions, especially now we know something about their migration, but for the breeding success and for the survival, those things are still lacking. So those are very important questions, and hopefully there will be some other people can fill in this gap. And for my guess for how they fly, so I will guess that they will be flapping for a lot of the majority of the time to go through this, because we know that during the daytime there will be thermals or more winds that may be adding some help for them to fly. But during the evening, apparently there's no sun, so there's no thermal. So I believe that they will rely on the flapping mode mostly. And interestingly, from the Japan to Philippine stretch, I mean, their speed is really slow at some sections. And we haven't had an opportunity to look at the weather data yet, but I think that will give us some answers about the flight behavior. Thank you.
Okay, Professor Ross, there's one question here that I think will be quite interesting to see. Do you think that could the birds use any shapes for moving or resting? We know such things for black kites.
Okay, I cannot say it is not impossible, but just based on our observations, and these will be, it's pretty fast and based on our text, so it has to be flying. As actually at the very beginning, when we see those couple texts that we have point in Korea and the next point is in Taiwan, and we're just wondering what happened. So we spend a lot of time guessing, and until this one individual that's showing detailed information, showing that they do have the abilities to do that. So I guess it's just because based on the ways we use to observe the migratory raptors, mostly using the ground count during the daytime. So it's kind of restricted our ability to understand that part of the ecology. So hopefully with more information, I mean, more data, we'll be able to do that. Well, actually, for these past 2 years, the project has been held because of the pandemic. Yeah, we had more tags and we're ready to go to Korea, but due to the pandemic, it cannot be done. And hopefully in the near future, we can complete that part of the project.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Professor. And let's move on.
Thank you.
Thank you for the great presentation. Our next presenter will be Dr. Chayan Kaswandokbua from Thailand. Go ahead, Dr. Chayan. Thank you.
Okay, I think I was unmuted. Okay. Good day, everyone. So today I would like to present some of our work for 2 years in Thailand about the study of the migration routes of the black kite in the country by satellite tracking. In Thailand, we have 2 subspecies. One is the Milvus migrans govinta, which is shown in on the left side. You can see that this is used to be documented as the year-round breeding resident, and there is no record of the migratory behavior of this subspecies in Thailand. And the right one is the Milvus migrans brunnetus, or also known as the black-eared kite. Some checklists might split this subspecies into the full species, different from the govinta black kite. And you can see that the difference is very obvious. You can identify them in the field. Generally, the govinta kite is smaller, slender, and you can see the forktail is deeper compared to the black-eared kite or the rhiniatus. The black-eared kite is a winter visitor in Thailand and Southeast Asia. But as of now, we didn't know that where it exactly came from. So this is the purpose of this study, using the satellite tracking to compare the behavior, if any, of the govinta kite, if it is the migratory, and we would like to know the breeding ground of the black-eared kite wintering in Thailand. Okay, so here the picture of the govinta black kite is a nest in our research site in central Thailand in Nakhon Nayok Province. And where it's bred, the other subspecies, the black-eared kite, also winter in this particular area. And we count about 2,000 of the black-eared kites every winter from September to April every year. So these 2 subspecies share the habitat together. But in the past, we thought that their status are different. One, the govinta is the resident breeder, and the black-eared kite is the winter visitor. Next, please. So here is the research site. We call this Park Pre-Rice Field, and it's very unique that at the center of the rice field, the local people planted the eucalyptus tree, which is alien to Thailand, but it provides very suitable habitat for nice roosting for the black-eared kite. So we caught them very easily in the night when they perch on the tree. And also in the area around this particular plantations, there are trees in the rice field. The govinta black kite build the nest up on the moderately high trees, such as the eucalyptus and also the palm trees. So here we received the funding from the National Research Committee of Thailand, and we use the GPS GSM tag provided by the Intellect, the Poland company. And we tag 3 nestlings and 2 adults, male breeders. We couldn't catch the female breeders. We use the Dugasa method to catch the adult male, and we tag the nestling while they are in the nest. And also we tag only 1 rhiniatus black-eared kite, and it was the adult female. And here is the team, my student, that work on the govinta nestling and during the night to catch the rhiniatus black-eared kite. And here is the example of the tag that we mounted on the back of the govinta black kites. And here is the map of the migration. We started to tag the black kite, the first juvenile, in 2020. And this is the migration route of that particular juvenile. But pre-light field in the Nayok province is here at the green dot. And it moved to the west and flew over the Andaman Sea in the night. This is very interesting and surprise to us, about 4 to 5 hours, and made the landfall in Myanmar around midnight. And then flew or travel moved north, passing Bangladesh. And we lost some GPS fix in May and in June, and we received the fix again. And this particular juvenile spent their first year in Northwest India. Particularly the name is Georgia, where it's semi-desert habitat. And then in September, November, December of 2020, it moved back again, but used a different route to the east of where it was wintering, back to its natal site in Park Pri. So this one completed the loop migration. And remember, this is the first year and the only one that we have the data on the juvenile. Okay, so next slide, please. Then in 2021, we tagged 4 more of the black kites, Govinta, 2 adults. And actually the R85 is the second year, but we decided as an adult, and 1 juvenile, the R210. The R210 is the juvenile that is the sibling of this one, the R209. So these two, the yellow and the blue dot, reflects the adult male that we caught by Dukasa method. And you can see that the pattern of the migration direction is similar to the first juvenile we tagged in 2020. From Nakhon Nayok province here in central Thailand, it moved to the west, passing Myanmar, Bangladesh, and spent about 3 to 4 months, the monsoon months, from May to, let's say, October to November in India. And 1 more juvenile, Ram, I call it Ram or Rama. You know, people from India would notice this name. It spent winter in Northwest India, just about the same area as the first juvenile we did tag in 2020. Whereas the 2 adult male reflect as the yellow and the blue lines. They spend about 4 to 5 months in Eastern India. And all of them, most of the time they spend in big cities. This is very different from Thailand. In Thailand, black kite, the Govinta subspecies, hunt mostly in the rice field. But in India, they spend mostly in big city. Okay, next please. And then 2 of the adult male that we tagged came back from India to Thailand just this year in November 2021. And my students were able to spot this one. There are 226, we named it Tewa. And it came back to the old nest of his that he bred last year in 2020. Here is the nest in the palm tree. Exactly the same nest he used last year. And here is the tag. Okay, so we have the provenance of the fixes and the birds that come back and complete the migration back from India. Next, please. Next is the rhinated black ear kite. We only have funding enough for 1 kite, and we need to do the study more in the future. We tag with the same GPS GSM tag นะครับ on the back, and here you can see the tag which is white color on the back. Okay, and then we release it in the roosting site in Pak Pri, Nakhon Nayok. Yep. Here is the summary of the migration route of this black ear kite, which is adult female. We set it by chromosome sexing. It moved from Thailand, passing Laos, Vietnam, China, and spent the summer from early May to August in eastern Siberia, close to Irkutsk. And we would like to check if the fix we have is correct. So we asked the help of Igor Fefelov, our friend in Red Baikal area, and he introduced us another colleague in Latvia, and he and his group was able to go check this black ear kite using our fixes that sent to him in June. So, and next slide, please. This is the team, the Latvian team, and they went to the lake that Sida, the name of this kite is Sida, that spent the summer, but it appears that Sida didn't have any breeding activity, didn't pair with anyone. So the team found and photographed Sida in eastern Siberia. So we have the provenance of the kite along this migration route. And this is quite a blurred picture, but if you enlarge it, you can see the tag here, like this. This when we was tagging her in the night. Okay, next slide. Yes, so the conclusion here, just roughly, for the black kite winter subspecies in Thailand population, it shows the longitudinal migration, meaning that the direction of the migration is east to west. This is new to Thailand because most of the raptor species that migratory in Thailand either spending the winters in the country or passing through Reda Hill or Khao Din Saw in southern Thailand to the south or to the Malay Peninsula or Indonesia. Most of them are the boreal migratory species, means that they move from north to south. So this is new to us, and it asks us more questions that what about the Govinda subspecies in other countries of Southeast Asia? Do they perform the similar migration behavior like the kite in Thailand? How about the Govinda kite in India or in Myanmar, which I have been there, and there are many in Yangon or in big city. Do they also show the migratory pattern like this in Thailand? We still don't know. So maybe some colleagues in those countries might start to pursue some research on that. And also the black ear kite, the one that we only tagged, it shows, we already know about this, that it shows the latitudinal migration. The direction of the migration is the north and south. And the status of the black kite, Govinda subspecies in Thailand, we propose to change to breeding visitor. And also, it's also migratory in Thailand. Okay, that would sum up of my presentation of this work. And thank you for your attention. And I'm happy to answer if any you have questions, please.
Thank you, Dr. Chayan. Any questions, please pose or ask directly. Dr. Chayan, I've got one question though. When I was in Mumbai, I see a lot of black kites gathering around in specific spots in Mumbai. Do you see the same thing in Thailand where there are specific roosting sites for black kites?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if we say black kite, I mean the Govinda subspecies. Yes, it's very rare in Thailand. It is endangered. We never have the black kite Govinda subspecies living in big city in Thailand, never.
Okay.
Only few provinces, about 8 provinces that we survey and found in Thailand, of total about 72 provinces in Thailand. And most of them breed in central and western Thailand. Okay. This are very different from the black ear kite, the rhiniatus. They spend the winter in dry field, but we can see them soaring over in towns or big city. And I think that is the similar, it's very different, very contrast to the experience I saw myself in Yangon in Myanmar and in India, that the Govinda kite is very, very common and mostly stay in town or big cities, as our data also show that.
Okay, thank you. There's one more question, then we will move on. This is from Tulsi. He says, hi, Cheyenne, impressive work. Your kite subspecies Govinda is following coastal routes while eastward migration cycle. What could be the particular reason for mostly using coastal sites?
Yes, we compare the rainfall between the breeding season of the black kite Govinda in Thailand. We found that in breeding season, which span from December to May, is the driest season, not the wettest season in Thailand. Okay. But when we compare to the month, the Govinda kite spent in India is the monsoon season. Okay. From, let's say, June to October. And then in November, the adult male moved back to Thailand. So we think that the prey availability might play a key role, you know, in each habitat between countries. I say that in winter, when the Govinda kite breeds, it's a lot of activity in the paddy fields in Thailand. Yeah. A lot of bandicoot, if you know, really big rats, or the light field rats, which are the main prey of the black kite, and also for the black ear kite too. So we think the prey availability would be one of the key features that would make the selection of the black kite Govinda to spend each season between Thailand and India.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Chayan. Dr. Chayan, there's one more question in the chat group. Perhaps you can answer directly. The question is, what do you think makes the black kite migrate during night instead of daytime? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we have two juvenile black kite that show the night migration, nocturnal migration, briefly about 4 to 5 hours, crossing the Andaman Sea from the western Thailand to make the landfall in Myanmar. Like Dr. Chai present, it might be ship assisted, or it might actually flew over the sea by themselves. We still don't know, but we pretty sure that the fix that we have, these two juvenile kites did crossing the sea. And interestingly, I did mention that earlier, the answer to adult male did not make the sea crossing, very different from the juvenile. It's like they are more experienced. They moved to Western Thailand and make the land crossing into Myanmar. None of the two make the sea crossing like the juvenile. So yeah, we would search more for we would like to do more tagging, so we have more data to conclude anything. Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you, Dr. Chayan. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. Let's move on. Our next presenter will be Dr. Zule, and this will be on preliminary report of raptor migration survey at Longquanshan, Chengdu, Sichuan, China. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So, can anybody see my slide?
Yes.
Okay, okay. So now it's in full view, right?
Yep.
Okay, thanks. Good day to everyone, and thanks for the organizer to give me this opportunity. And today, I'm on the behalf of the whole team, I'm give the talk to share some our finding at Longquanshan. Okay, next one. So why we counted the migratory raptors? There are good number of reasons. Yesterday, Rob from the Raptor Research Foundation, they gave us those DDT history with those like the bald eagle and the peregrine falcon in North America. So we have to count them, right? As a good environmental indicator, and also the things happened all around the world show that migration monitoring is also a very good way to practice the citizen science. Although you may find a few information about the raptor count or raptor monitoring in mainland China, but surprisingly, we have a relatively long history here. And the story started at a small town here by the coast of Bohai Bay. It's called a Beidaihe. And during World War II, there's a Danish scientist, Axel Hermansen. He spent almost 3 years at that small town to do the systematics observation of the migrating bird. Of course, he recorded some raptors. According to his book, there's 22 species. And that's a start to his pioneering works give us some clue. So there's people follow up. In 1981, Professor Zhang Yingxuan from the Institute of Zoology, Chinese Academy of Science, he performed some survey south of Beidaihe. And according to his paper, he found 25 species of raptors over there. And then come to a time rediscovery of Beidaihe. Martin Williams and his friends from Cambridge University, and with the collaboration of Professor Xu Weishu from Beijing Natural History Museum, they do a lot of long-term survey over there. Especially in 1986, they count more than 14,000 pine harrier just in one season. Before that, people believed that maybe just a few thousand left in the world. So they published a paper in 1992. Up to now, it's still the best reference regarding as a bird migrating in Beidaihe. Altogether, they recorded 30 species of raptor. And then Beidaihe again. The world famous expert on raptor, William Clark, he also visited Beidaihe in 1991, and he recorded 25. By the end of last year, which means in this century, there's more than 10 sites in the mainland of China. People do more or less count the migrating raptors. And Beijing and Baiwangshan in Beijing is the first site. And Mr. Shi, who gave a talk yesterday, he reported the things happening here in Guantouling and Beihai. And our survey site is here, right in the middle. Firstly, I like to give some background. Sichuan is a big province, just slightly smaller than the Spain. And both the area size and the population size is a fifth in the whole China. And according to the latest data, the Sichuan holds more than 700 bird species, which rank in the second place in the whole China. And Chengdu is the capital city of Sichuan, and it is also a big city and with many people, which rank in the fourth one in China. And for this city, we recorded more than 500 bird species. But when we talk about Sichuan and Chengdu, especially for the outside of China, people will first think about a panda, but our data and our work show that it's more than just a panda. Now is a briefing of the raptors of Sichuan. Altogether, up to now, we know in total is 45 species, which means it's more than 67% of the all the raptors in China. But unfortunately, so few studies carried out so far. But luckily, there's one study refers to mountain Longquanshan published in 1998. And we also do something about the bird of prey in Sichuan, like this one, the Western marsh area. Right, here's a mountain Longquanshan. It runs from the northeast to southwest, which is not a very big one, only 200 kilometers long and 10 kilometers in the widest. And the section of this mountain range in the Chengdu city now is being planned as a forestry park, which is said one of the largest in the world. And this yellow spot, the yellow dot is our survey site. Here's a close up. You can see there's two ranges joined together, and our survey site is at the junction. Here's a method, and this is a view from our survey site. Normally they are quite high, but sometimes we can manage to get some nice shot. Here's the result. In the 2020 spring, I think it's acting as a test. We only recorded, it's only 4 of us, and we only recorded less than 2,000 birds, but it's give us inspiration. Maybe we can do something over there. And the 3 most abundant species is Eastern buzzard, Oriental honey buzzard, Orientalist subspecies, and the Eurasian Sparrowhawk. And we recorded only 2 peaks over that season. And definitely we must miss some more. But even in this survey effort, just 14 counts in 44 days, we managed to record a new bird species for the Chengdu city. That's short-toed snake eagle. Then we continue our work in that autumn, and more people join us, of course. So the number of the birds we count rise up for sure. And last year, even more people joined us because local news coverage, more and more people are aware of the things. So last spring, the number of the species and also the birds rise up again, especially the number. It's rise up at almost 3 or 4 folds. And the 3 most abundant species remain the same: Eastern buzzard, Oriental honey buzzard, and the Eurasian sparrowhawk. Again, we recorded more peaks in the spring migration, and we also rediscovered the leather kestrel. In the past, we only have the historical specimen record. And we began to thinking of that, we began to notice some of the pattern in the spring migration, like the eastern bird that might show up in the early March and reach the pink and the same months. And for the Oriental honey bother, maybe because their food is some the wasp and the beans, so they began their northbound migration quite late. And maybe because we are just at the very beginning point, so our skill is still improving. So I think we underestimated the Eurasian sparrowhawk. Last autumn, more people and more skillful volunteers joined us. We began to have some pattern of the daily movement. From this one, it's based on the last September data. You can see mostly they show up in the afternoon between 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., something like that. And we also have a nice photo to show the full season monitoring data. And compared to the last publication, which was made by the Mr. Long, early mentioned in the 1998, we think we find the same pattern, the general pattern of the autumn migration. The high peak show up here in the late October. And in Long's paper, he mentioned that the local people, they noticed the movement of the bird very long time ago. They even formed the habit to hunt them at the Longquanshan mountain. As the parent, we didn't notice any immediate threat of the hunt to the raptors, but they might occur also. Then the local people, they also give the local name according to the show time of those, the date of those birds. We have an interesting finding that we call the annual Eagle Day in 21st of August. The year before last year, we recorded 41 birds, which belong to 5 species of eagle. And the last year they show up again. And maybe because the bad visibility, maybe the number is the same or even higher. So we cannot wait to see what will happen in this October. And besides the field work, we also do some propaganda and media promotion, like the local media, they report our activities. And then we also publish some booklet to help people to ID the raptors. And based on the data we collected in the last 2 years, we also published some paper about the booted eagle in China and their polymorphy of the counter-polymorphy in China. And we also use the social media to promotion our activity and to attract more people to concern those raptors. And we even have a Facebook page called Mountain Longquan Hawk Watching. You are more than welcome to follow us. And you can see more and more people getting involved. This is the first meeting we try to introduce this project, and just a handful of people joined. And this is the last year, spring, if I correct. You can see there's multiple people join us. And in last October, we also have a, how to see that, the hawk watching fair in Chengdu, supported by the local authority. We also invited other group conducting raptor count in other part of China to share their story to the public. And more people joined us. And we also took this opportunity to show our appreciation to those excellent volunteers. And we cannot manage the things without them. Here's the last slide. I always touched by the comparison of the two photos. One is 1939 in Hawk Mountain Sanctuary, and then one is us at the mountain Longquanshan. I think the watch and count the raptor, they are far beyond the country, the time, and the rise. We can do something different together. Thanks, and open for the comments and the questions. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Zule, for your presentation. Is there any questions that anyone want to ask? Please post it on the chat group. I have one though. I noticed that Zule, you mentioned that most of the birds, they show up during the afternoon session. In Malaysia, when we do our monitoring, most of the birds also show up between 10 and 2 o'clock. Our reasoning is that it's because that's when the thermals are most, there are most thermals during that period of the time. Is that why you think it is in China?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's the same reason. They need the thermal, and I think the terrain of the whole site is a key point.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any other questions for Zule?
Hey, hi, Zule. Yeah,
hi.
I wanted to ask, because you saw like quite some exhibitor like Tesla and Eurasian Sparrowhawk. I just wondered, do you have a good number of tikra? Because my first tikra is actually from Sichuan, Yunnan.
Oh wow. You mean we underestimated the Sparrowhawk, right?
Yeah, I mean the tikra.
Oh no, I don't think we have a tikra over there.
Okay.
If they are must be very few and very difficult to separate with others. But the Guantolin, they form a larger proportion at the Guantolin. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Zule, for your presentation. And for those who have posted questions, let's go to our final presenter, Zai. And go ahead, Zai, for your presentation. Thank you.
Okay, I think I just have a problem. Okay, so just hold on a little bit. Yeah. Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit, okay. Okay, also, can you see my screen?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, cool. Hold on a second. Okay, hello everyone. Good afternoon. I'm research member of Raptor Research Group of Taiwan, and I'm also participate in Canteen Autumn Raptor count as the counter for a bit over 6 years. And I'll say count duty is one of the best part of my job when we count the bird at watch sites. And it's like not just being a part of a global migratory raptor monitoring and conservation program, but also enjoy in the process of engaging with the visitors and share knowledge of the raptor with each other. And here I'm excited to share with you about our work and some interesting results. Okay, so first I'd like to introduce about where we count the birds and why choose this location. The map at the left side shows a part of Eastern Asia oceanic flyway, and most of the birds from Korea, Japan, and Northeast Asia follow this flyway, traveling back and forth between the breeding area and their wintering home in Taiwan, Philippines, and Indonesia. And Taiwan is located, oh, sorry, I think I need the laser. Okay, here. And Taiwan is located at the kind of middle of the flyway, and the narrow shape of the island make a large group of migrant concentrating into a relatively narrow topographies, and the phenomenon are even obvious when the bird reaches South Taiwan. See, this is a narrow reaches South Taiwan, which is the Hentron Peninsula here, and the peninsula is act like just like a migratory bottleneck. So the raptor gathering and concentrating here, some of them stay a few days to refuel, and then cross the Bashi Channel, keep on their southward journey. And that provide a unique opportunity to monitor the status and trend of the migrant by ground survey. So the count was made by 2 counters at this pavilion, it's here, as this photo below, during September 1st to October 31st, from 5 a.m. to 12 p.m. So occasionally we will put off time a little bit if the flock still keeps showing up at around noon. Okay, so that's all. Okay, and this photo shows part of the view from our watch side. So this is the east coast of Taiwan, and the arrow point at the south is the direction the most raptor departure heading to the next stop, which is Luzon, about 360 kilometers away, or 170 kilometer to Bataan. Okay, so here I'll summarize the result of last year's count. Last year, we count 17 species of raptors, including 11 species of migrants, and around 370,000 individuals in total. So the slide shows the photo of bird and a scientific name, the count in 2021, and the smaller number on the bottom is the 10 years average number, as right here. And so first we look at the orange zone. We have a huge amount of Chinese sparrowhawk and gray-faced buzzard, and these 2 species make up over 98% of the total count. And we also have osprey and Eastern Marsh Harrier here in the orange zone, which all the count were far beyond the 10 years average. So usually the number of Eastern Marsh Harrier is around 10 individuals, or so this case could be maybe eruptive migrant event, I'm not sure. So since we know very little about this species. Okay. And we will go into the detail about the status and trend of the rest of the species later. Okay, in green zone down below here, we have Oriental honey buzzard, Japanese sparrowhawk, and Eurasian hobby, which are the species the count are less than the 10 years average, but didn't show the decline trend in the long term. And next count of peregrine falcon and common kestrel last year was pretty around the average. And at the right side, Eurasian sparrowhawk is uncommon or rare bird around the watch side. We also have a northern goshawk and eastern buzzard sometimes, but not every year. So most of the species arrive their destination before reaching canteen. So we don't usually see them on this, we say, departure halt of a migrant. And last one is black buzz. Black buzz is a special case. They show up almost every year and usually mix in the flock of Chinese sparrowhawk. But since there's no record from Philippines, I doubt if they even try to cross the Bashi Channel or they just turn back while reaching the shore. Okay, so here's the Chinese sparrowhawk. And our work counting raptor count started in 1989, but the standardized protocol has been established since 2004. So we will just focus on the data after 2004. And this graph showed annual count of Chinese sparrowhawk, the most abundant migratory raptor in oceanic flyway. So the horizontal axis represents the year and the vertical axis is the number of count. The bar graph, so can you see my cursor? Okay. The bar graph here is the total number of the annual count. And I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, so due to the difference in the working hour each year because of the weather condition and typhoon, here's a line chart I showed here, and the data, that's the data after afford adjusted, which is represented by the count per hour. So since we lost our 2005 and 2006 working hour data, so I keep here blank. Okay, so we can see the annual count was declined from 2004 to around 2015. From 220,000 to less than 60,000 individual. When this happens, we will start thinking about what's going on with this bird. Is it something to do with deforestation, forest fire in East Indonesia, or oil palm plantation? And they just recovered for unknown reason since 2015. So the count even reaches the historical height in 2020. So we count around 270,000 individual in the year. Okay, so next is gray-faced buzzard. So it's as previous slides, the bar graph is the number of the, and the number at the bottom shows the total count of the season. And the line chart is data after afford adjusted. The annual number of gray-faced buzzard has ranged from around 23,000 in 2004 and 100,000 in 2020 and 2021. So in general, the number of gray-faced buzzard shows a positive trend, the number increasing at the beginning, and then goes stable from 2008 to 2015, and followed by the strong and significant increase in after 2016. The annual count more than double the average number and almost 5 times the first year data. Okay, so here's the past period of 2 main migration species. So this is Chinese sparrowhawk. The graph show the peak migration window for Chinese sparrowhawk, which is 90% of the population were observed to passing by our watch site of the year. So the horizontal axis represents the years and the vertical axis is a date. The 4-point of box graph represent the date when the number reaches 5 and 25, 75, and 95% of annual population respectively. So according to the observation, Chinese sparrowhawk usually peaks on the mid-September and their passage period keep around 25 days on average. The length of the passage period varies slightly from year to year, depend on weather condition. And sometimes we have typhoon or heavy rainfall or strong breeze that put off the passage period for the days. Okay, now here comes the gray-faced buzzard. The gray-faced buzzard is a flock migrans and with a relatively narrow seasonal migrant window. And the peak number occur on the mid-October and keep on around 12 days on average. So if you look into the significant part of migrant period, we will see the timing show a slight delay in the past 16 years. And the situation in 2021 is something very interesting. So you can see from the graph that the birds are kind of super late. Usually Northwest Taiwan will hit by the first wave of gray-faced buzzard, which is come from East China in the early October, but we heard nothing from them until October 10th. Then those birds are blocked by a strong typhoon, so we didn't count the first wave of gray-faced buzzard until October 15th. And something unexpected happened is that a huge wave showed up 4 days later. So I'll just show this photo. And this is just a small part of a super flock of gray-faced buzzard we recorded in the early morning of October 19, 2021. So every dust, like the little dark dot is the gray-faced buzzard. This flock like a river flow through the quiet sky for over 50 minutes with the distance around 3 kilometers away from the watch site. So they are actually completely out of the naked eyesight. So we have a lot of visitors there, but nobody saw them. Okay, so we call this kind of early giant flock the first wave. They show up around 5:30 a.m. and usually are the biggest flock in the whole day. So we count over 60,000 gray-faced buzzard in the morning, and that's the number over the seasonal average, which means the bird we count in a single morning are over the number of the bird we count in the whole season years ago. Okay, let's go back to the previous, okay. Here we go back to this graph. The passage period just keeps 6 days and the sky go quiet again. So last year we actually encountered with the latest onset and the shortest migration period with the historical high count. Okay, so people want to ask, after all this year, there's a question, did the migratory raptor really increase it? There's for sure if we just look at the number, but how about the actual population? Since our data is come from a single site survey, so it's really hard to tell if the actual population grows. The indirect reason for and against this result both exist. But some research show that some of the breeding population facing habitat degradations and habitat loss crisis, and some show nest density declines in specific area. So also counted from Miyakoshima shows a long-term decline trend in the past years. So it's kind of not so support our result, right? So however, we cannot ignore all the work and effort that people do along the flyway to conserve this bird. Okay, so we'll give some example. So this is a photo from this Tokyo City Nature Sanctuary in Japan. So these people in this photo are cutting grass and direct water to fallow fields that bring back frog. So which is one of the major prey for gray-faced buzzards in the breeding ground. Okay, so this photo shows the bird is hunted by the local people in Taiwan. And so gray-faced buzzard, they face great hunting pressure in the past, like 30 to 50 years ago, but activity has also been declined gradually, even though there are still very few cases of poaching every year. The situation has been much more improved compared with 50 years ago. So also the local government and conservation organization put a lot of effort into education, like holding a lecture in this picture, and bring people to watch those birds. And that changed the relationship between human and raptor and how people treat this precious guest. So another thing it is worth to mention, so in the bottom, the right side, this photo is called Sakip Sawe, is a conservation activity in Philippines. And the Philippines began to strengthen the bans on poaching of the gray-faced buzzard in the spring since 2016, which might reduce the mortality during the bird's northward journey of breeding population of gray-faced buzzard. And this might push the population into a positive trend. Okay, there's something else I think is kind of interesting is not just the count of Chinese sparrowhawk and gray-faced buzzards are rising up, but also ospreys and peregrine falcon. So osprey and peregrine falcon are less than 10 individuals in the very beginning in 2004. And you can see in the graph, the number of the species keep raising up, especially osprey. And osprey is a common wintering bird in Taiwan. As far as I know, we don't have any breeding record so far, but some of the young birds spend their summer times here before reach its full mature condition. And they are even more uncommon in the recent year. So according to some observation record from birders and breeding survey of local conservation organization, the nest size of peregrine falcon will increasing. And a similar trend may also happen in the other country we present. So that make our count rising up. Okay, Oriental honey buzzard is another story. So we consider this bird as migrant like 30 years ago. And that's why honey buzzard on the migrant list at the first place. And you can see I think it's the third page of this slide. The honey buzzard is on this list. But and then some nests and fledgling with full growth white feather was found at around 1996 to 2000. And it made them partial migrant, we presume. And some of the tagged birds showed seasonal movement, but never left Taiwan. And now we lack direct evidence for exist of migratory population. So we become more concerned when we decide if we should count the bird while the Oriental honey buzzard show up at our watch site. And that might be the main reason make the number drop. Okay, you can check there's a picture at the right side at the bottom. And this is an adult female individual we take at the North Taiwan. So it just stay at North Taiwan for the whole summer and start moving south. And we think, oh yes, the bird started migration. We have migratory honey buzzard. And the bird just reached the south tip of Taiwan several times. Every time they reach the shore, it just turning back. And like months ago, the signal just disappeared at the east coast of Taiwan. So we never had evidence that this bird leave Taiwan. So if we count this bird every time she passed the watch site, which is the orange arrow, this single individual will contribute at least 4 or 5 times of the count, I think. Okay, now here comes the conclusion. So Chinese sparrowhawk show the trend of first decrease and the increase with the breakpoint at around 2014 to 2016. And Griffith buzzard shows a positive trend since 2004. Osprey and peregrine falcons also shows a trend of population growth. But we can't answer this question because the data is come from a single site counting and we don't know what happened. Maybe it's because migration route shift or something else. We are not sure if the actual population did grow. So the international cooperations and integration of multi-site survey data will provide more reliable conclusions when exploring the causes of demographic trend. Okay, so this is for those who are interested in our counting data of South Taiwan. This is how you can find it. It's open and we will update the data every day right after the daily survey. So just enter ARRCN website. At the bottom of the page, you'll find this link. Click on it. And here is a simple Google spreadsheet. Move the cursor at the abbreviation right here. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but I'll just use the laser pen right here. And this little window will pop up and show you the scientific name and an English name of the species. And the number below here is the number we count. So here's the date. So you can trace the number. Okay, so that is, I want to thanks to all the counters over here who hold the binocular and our volunteer here, like the one who wrote the board or write the record. And a member from Raptor Research Group of Taiwan and lots of friends who support us and bring beer to us, keep us alive. Especially thanks to Kenty National Park headquarters and who found this project for all these years. And that's really, I would say, we really appreciate it. No, without all of this thing won't going to possible. Okay, and thank you for anyone who joined the presentations and taking the time. If there's any questions you'd like to ask, please feel free to write to the email below. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sai Yihua, for your great presentation. Kenting has always been an attraction to many who are interested in raptors. There was a very interesting conversation going on in the chat group where there are different countries that have done conservation efforts, and which you mentioned in your presentation that because of this, that could be a possible reason why the gray-faced buzzard numbers are going up. So it shows that conservation is not just one single country, but a collaboration between many different countries. Yeah. Now there are two questions that's up in the chat group. One is, may I know which subspecies of peregrine is breeding in Taiwan? Is it Japonensis? And I heard there's a sighting of Ernesti breeding pair in Tainan. Is it correct?
Okay, I'm not sure about which species, or I would say maybe it's multiple species because we saw some bird with the kind of pattern over here, and or some bird with a black hood head, and I saw the pair in North Taiwan. It's a bigger, I say Japan subspecies, and I'm not sure about the subspecies name. And another, the male is the Japanicus, I think. Sorry, I forgot the name. But the male, the female is the bigger subspecies, and the male look like Ernesti. But I doubt if we have the what we saw pure Ernesti. I don't know. I think they already hybrid. Yeah. So we have multiple subspecies, I think.
Okay.
So the breeding criteria that you have is not the NFT, right? From migratory left.
I won't say that we don't have it because I'm not sure. We did see some very smaller and with a black hood. It looked like Ernesti, but since that's not really common here, so I'm not sure what should a real Ernesti look like here. Yeah, but we do have some peregrine look like the more like Ernesti.
Okay. NFT, they don't have the monster pattern. They had a full hope. So if you are not seeing a full hope peregrine falcon, then you are not NFT.
Oh, we have both, and we have a pair is a pattern and breeding with a black hood.
Okay. All right.
Okay. We have one more question. This is regarding the Oriental honey buzzard. So the Oriental honey buzzard that was recorded at Kenting are residents and not migrants?
Well, I would say this is a really tough and interesting issue. A lot of people working on it because now we know we have resident population, but we don't know if we have a migrant. And when I at the watch site, I saw a flock of Oriental honey buzzard, about 13 to 20 birds, and heading south straight and disappear in our eyesight. Yeah, but some of them, like 7 or 10 birds, coming back into our eyesight like 2 hours later. So some birds just heading south and disappear, and I don't know what they do. And some of them come back, but not all of them. So we are not sure if there's any migrant over, or maybe some resident and see the migrants, they just follow them and turning back. But we still have migrant leave Taiwan. We're not sure. We're still working on it.
Yeah. Okay. Is there any more questions that anyone want to ask Zai? If not, I'd like to thank Zai for your wonderful presentation. In conclusion, I'd like to thank everyone that presented during this session. We have lots and lots of data from lots of work done by everybody. And it shows that all these data are individually, and if there is some collaboration to combine and gel all this data together, it will even make our understanding of raptor migration even more solid. Yeah. So thank you very much, everybody, for the presentation. Thank you, ARRCN, for having this symposium. And I'm sure a lot of us learned a lot of new things from here. Without further ado, we'll break for lunch. I think Dr. Pon may be making some announcement about when is the next session starting. Thank you very much.